My cousin's addiction spiraled at my graduation party, reopening old grudges that exploded in front of everyone. I never thought my graduation party would end up being remembered for anything other than me finally getting through college. But of course, my cousin Joshua made sure it became a spectacle. He's 23, just a year older than me, and he's been struggling with addiction issues for as long as I can remember. Every family gathering feels like a gamble. Will Joshua show up sober, or will it turn into a circus? The party itself was at my parents' backyard in Ohio. We'd strung up fairy lights, rented some fold-out tables, and my mom had cooked enough food to feed a small army. Friends from college were mixing with family, people laughing, drinking, and clinking glasses. For the first hour or two, it was perfect. Then Joshua walked in. I saw my Aunt Linda, his mom kind of guiding him through the crowd. He had sunglasses on at night. His shirt was half intact, and he reeked of cheap whiskey even from a few feet away. My stomach dropped. My dad muttered under his breath, "Here we go again." At first, Joshua tried to play it cool. He had me with that fake over-the-top energy. "Congrats, man. College graduate in the family, finally." He said loud enough that people turned. His voice cracked on finally, like he was trying too hard. I forced a smile. "Thanks, Josh. Glad you could make it." But the truth was, I didn't want him there. Joshua and I have had this long-held grudge simmering ever since high school. He stolen from me once my laptop, which he pawned for. And even though he apologized later, I never fully forgave him. Seeing him at my celebration felt like a slap in the face. Things went downhill fast. Joshua grabbed a beer from the cooler, then another. Soon he wasn't just drinking, he was stumbling, interrupting conversations, and making weird jokes that left everyone uncomfortable. At one point, he cut off my grandfather mid-sentence to say, "Man, you know what, this family really needs less pretending and more honesty." People laughed nervously, but I knew where this was going. Joshua loved to bring up old wounds when he was drunk. I pulled my mom aside and whispered, "We need to get him out of here before he ruins everything." She bit her lip and said, "Just give it some time, Linda's watching him." But Linda wasn't watching him. She was too busy defending him, like always. By the time the cake came out, Joshua was red-faced and loud. He tried to make a toast, slamming his beer bottle on the table to get attention. "I just want to say congrats to my cousin here," he slurred. "But let's not forget he's not the only one who worked hard. Some of us had a harder road, okay?" The entire backyard went silent. I could feel the anger boiling in my chest, but this was just the beginning. I wish I could say I let this stuff slide, that I kept my cool because it was my night, my celebration. But no, Joshua knew exactly which buttons to push, and I walked right into it. "Josh, sit down," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's not about you." He smirked, swaying on his feet, bottle still in hand. "Not about me? Oh, right. Everything's always about you, huh? Mr. Perfect, Mr. College Degree." People started shifting in their seats. My uncle Mark coughed into his hand, clearly uncomfortable, while my dad muttered, "Unbelievable," under his breath. Then Joshua leaned closer, his voice dropping but still loud enough for half the backyard to hear. "At least I didn't get everything handed to me. Some of us actually had to fight." That was it. The grudge we'd been carrying for years, the unspoken bitterness, he just threw it out in front of everyone. I shot back, "Fight? You call stealing from family fighting? You pawned my laptop for Darsh? Don't act like you're some kind of survivor." The words hung in the air like a grenade. My Aunt Linda's face went pale. "Don't you dare bring that up," she snapped at me. "That was years ago. He's been trying." "Trying?" I laughed bitterly. "He showed up wasted to my graduation party. Linda, what exactly is he trying?" Joshua's eyes narrowed, his jaw clenched, and for a moment, I thought he might actually swing at me. Instead, he slammed the bottle down so hard it cracked the plastic table. My mom gasped, and a few of my friends exchanged awkward looks, clearly debating whether to leave. "Fine," Joshua barked. "You want to air dirty laundry? Let's do it. You think you're better than me because you got the degree? At least I didn't hide behind school to cover up being a selfish piece of..." My dad stood up then, his voice booming, "That's enough, you're not gonna ruin this night." But Joshua wasn't done. He staggered back, waving his hands dramatically. "Ruin it? No, I'm just telling the truth. This family loves to act like I'm the problem, like I'm the black sheep, but let me remind you, every single one of you is skeleton." The air was thick. I could feel everyone's eyes starting between me, Joshua, and Aunt Linda. "Josh, stop," Linda pleaded, reaching for his arm. He yanked it away. "No, he wants honesty. Right, well here's honesty. He's hated me since we were kids, always looked down on me, and you know what? Maybe I did take that laptop, but maybe I also remember him ratting me out, laughing while I got chewed out like trash. That hit me in the gut. Because he wasn't completely wrong. Back then, part of me had enjoyed watching him finally get consequences. Maybe too much. And now, here it was, years of resentment spilling out under the fairy lights, in front of both sides of the family, friends and neighbours. The party wasn't just tense anymore, it was a battlefield. At this point, the party wasn't a party anymore. It was dead quiet, except for Joshua's voice cutting through the silence like a knife. I could feel my face burning, not just from anger but from the humiliation of everyone watching. "Joshua, enough," my dad barked again, stepping between us. "You've embarrassed yourself enough tonight." But Joshua shoved a finger at me, his words slurring but sharp. "No, he's embarrassed me my whole life. You all think he's some golden boy, but you don't see what he's really like." I snapped. "What I'm really like? At least I can hold down a job, Josh. At least I didn't drop out of rehab twice. At least I didn't steal from my own grandmother to school." The second the words left my mouth, I regretted it. My Aunt Linda gasped so loud it felt like the air got sucked out of the backyard. My grandma, sitting quietly near the back with her walker, just looked down at her lap, tears forming in her eyes. Joshua froze. For a split second, the anger in his face shifted into something else, pain. But then it hardened again. He stepped closer until we were practically chest to chest. "You think you're better than me?" he shouted. "Say it, go ahead. Tell everyone you're perfect, while I'm the screw-up cousin." I didn't back down. "I don't have to say it, Josh. You prove it every damn time you show up." The crowd reacted, half gasps, half murmurs. My best friend from school tugged at my sleeve, whispering, "Dude, maybe let it go." But it was too late. We were locked in. That's when Aunt Linda lost it. She jumped in front of Joshua, her voice breaking. "Stop blaming him for everything. He's sick. He has a disease. You think it's easy watching your son fight addiction every day. You think I wanted this?" Her voice cracked, and suddenly she was crying, full on sobbing in front of everyone. Joshua looked stunned, almost ashamed, but instead of comforting her, he turned it back around. "See, this is what I mean," he yelled, his voice shaking. "I'm the one who gets blamed. While he jabbed a finger at me, gets praised for doing what? Sitting in classrooms, writing essays. He never cared about this family. He never cared about me." The words stung, not because they were true, but because deep down, maybe I had stopped caring about him. Maybe it was easier to just hate him than to admit how much he hurt me. "Joshua, please," my grandma finally whispered from the back, her voice trembling. "This isn't the time. Don't do this here." But Joshua just shook his head, pacing like a caged animal. "No, this is the time. Everyone needs to hear it. He thinks I'm a loser, fine. But maybe the real loser is the guy who can't forgive his own blood." The words landed like a punch. I stood frozen, everyone's eyes on me, waiting to see what I'd say next. The night had reached a breaking point, and I knew whatever happened next would change things forever. I could feel my chest tightening, like all the air in the backyard had been sucked out. My fists were clenched at my sides, and every part of me wanted to scream back at Joshua to finally unload years of anger. But before I could speak, my dad slammed his fist on the table so hard that the place rattled. Enough, he roared. This is supposed to be a celebration, not your personal therapy session. Joshua staggered back a step, but he wasn't done. He sneered at my dad. Oh, of course you're defending him. You've always played favourites. Must be nice having the good son in the spotlight while the rest of us get treated like garbage. I lost it. You're not treated like garbage. Josh, you act like garbage. You can't show up drunk to every family event, start fights, and then cry that you're the victim. Gasps rippled through the crowd. My Aunt Linda clutched Joshua's arm, begging, please, stop. Don't do this. That Joshua shook her off so violently she nearly stumbled. That's when my mom stepped forward, her voice steady but sharp. Joshua, you need to leave right now. He laughed a harsh, bitter laugh. Leave? Oh, sure. Kick out the addict. Kick out the screw-up cousin so you can all go back to pretending this family is perfect. He turned back to me, eyes glassy but burning. You think this night is yours? It's mine too, because without me, you wouldn't look so good. You need me to be the failure so you can be the success. That hit me harder than I expected. My throat tightened, because deep down, maybe part of me did compare myself to him to feel better. But I couldn't let him use that against me. You're wrong, I said, my voice low but shaking. I don't need you to fail. I just need you to stop dragging everyone down with you. For a moment, silence. Then Joshua snapped. He grabbed the cake knife from the table and pointed it not at anyone, but just waved it around like a weaponized gesture of frustration. People screamed, chairs scraped, and my mom shouted, Joshua, put it down. He didn't lunge, didn't actually try to hurt anyone, but the symbolism was enough. It was the climax of every family fear about him, his addiction, his rage, his unpredictability manifesting right there in the glow of the fairy lights. Finally, my Uncle Mark and my dad rushed him, grabbing the knife out of his hand and forcing him back. Joshua fought for a moment, then collapsed into the grass, sobbing, I didn't mean it, I didn't mean it. The entire backyard was in chaos. Kids were crying, some of my friends were already leaving, and the party was officially over. I just stood there, numb, staring at my cousin on the ground, wondering if this was the last straw or if we'd all just keep repeating this cycle forever. The aftermath was surreal. The music had stopped, the fairy lights flickered softly, and the party that had felt so perfect hours ago now seemed like a memory from another life. My friends were quietly gathering their things, muttering apologies for witnessing the chaos. I couldn't even think about speaking to them. I was frozen, watching my cousin curled up on the grass, Aunt Linda kneeling beside him, my dad pacing in circles, and my mom's face buried in her hands. Joshua, breathe, okay? Linda whispered, stroking his hair, tears running down her cheeks. You scared everyone, please, we just want you safe. Joshua barely looked at her. His body shook, his face red and blotchy. I didn't mean, I just... His words trailed off into nothing, swallowed by the night air. I wanted to walk over, wanted to say something, maybe apologise or make some kind of peace, but I couldn't. My throat was raw, my mind spinning with a mixture of anger, fear, and long-buried resentment. I remembered every slight, every theft, every insult. And here he was, still the same, still hurting us, all in the name of truth. My dad finally took a deep breath and spoke, his voice low and heavy. Linda, we need to take him home. He's not safe here, and neither is anyone else. Linda nodded silently, helping Joshua to his feet. He leaned on her, unsteady, still muttering under his breath about unfairness, about being blamed, about how no one understood him. It was heartbreaking, and I hated that I felt a mixture of pity and fury at the same time. As I left, I could feel the weight of the stares of family and friends. No one said anything, but the silence was deafening. My mom finally came over, wrapping me in a tight hug. I know you're angry, she whispered, but it's not just you, we're all hurting. I just wanted one night without this, I muttered, nodding toward the empty, chaotic backyard. One night to feel normal. She held me tighter. I know, we'll try again, but he's sick, and sometimes it's bigger than any party, any celebration, any grudge. I nodded, realizing that some grudges don't just disappear, even when someone's clearly in pain. Joshua wasn't just my cousin, he was a storm I couldn't control, a reminder of old wounds, and someone who would always test the limit of family tolerance. By the time I went inside, cleaned up, and tried to salvage what was left of the evening, it felt like the graduation party had ended a decade early. Everyone left quietly, my friends offering awkward hugs and whispered condolences. My parents tried to comfort me, but I could feel the tension lingering in the air like smoke from a fire that hadn't fully burned out. That night, I lay in my bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about Joshua, about our history, about the grudge that had lasted years. And for the first time, I realized that forgiving him, or at least trying to, wasn't just for him. It was for me too. But I also knew it wouldn't be easy. Not after tonight. The next morning felt strangely quiet. The backyard was littered with plastic cups and plates, remnants of the party, but it seemed almost symbolic, like the chaos Joshua left behind was still hanging in the air. My parents were quiet at breakfast, lost in their own thoughts. I could see the exhaustion etched into their faces, the kind that only comes after trying to contain a storm that refuses to calm down. I got a text from Aunt Linda later that morning. Joshua's resting. He's okay physically. Emotionally well, we'll see. Can you talk later? I hesitated. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to let the grudge win. But the other part, the part that had grown tired of the endless cycle of fights, apologies, and heartbreak made me respond. I can. What time? We met in the small park near my house. Joshua was sitting on a bench, his hoodie pulled up, eyes staring at the ground. He didn't say anything at first. I just stood there awkwardly, unsure where to start. Finally, he mumbled, I messed up. Understatement of the century. But it was a start. I know, I said, keeping my voice steady. You embarrassed yourself, you scared people, and you dragged up old stuff I never wanted to deal with tonight. He nodded, shoulders slumping. I know, I can't help it sometimes. I get drunk. I say things, I feel like no one sees me, and then I act out. I felt my chest tighten again, a mix of frustration and empathy. I get that, I really do, but some things you can't just spill them out at everyone's expense. It's not just your pain, it affects all of us. He was quiet for a long time, staring at the ground. Finally, he spoke, almost whispering, I don't want you to hate me. I don't, I admitted, surprising even myself. I'm angry, yes, I'm hurt, but hey, that's not helpful. We need to figure out a way to deal with this before the next family gathering, before it blows up again. He nodded, and for the first time, there was a kind of fragile understanding between us. It wasn't forgiveness yet, not fully, but it was acknowledgement. It was the start of something better. Later that day, I talked with my parents. We all agreed that Joshua would need professional help, ongoing support, and limits to prevent future disasters. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was a start. For the first time in years, it felt like the grudge could finally be put aside, or at least managed without destroying the family every single time. By the end of the day, I realized that life with Joshua would always have its challenges. But for the first time, I felt like maybe, just maybe, the cycle of anger and chaos could slow down. And that was enough to breathe a little easier. A few weeks later, the tension in the family began to ease slowly, but it was noticeable. Joshua was still struggling, but he'd agreed to start regular counselling sessions and had even reached out to a local support group. It wasn't a miracle fix, but it was progress, and that felt monumental. We decided to have a small, quiet family dinner to make amends and reconnect. It wasn't a celebration, no fairy lights, no loud music, no college friends spilling into the backyard. Just family, sitting around the table, trying to repair what had been shattered. Joshua arrived, cleaner, calmer, dressed neatly for once. He avoided eye contact at first, but he carried a small dish he had made himself a peace offering of sorts. My Aunt Linda and Mum exchanged relieved looks. My dad, usually stoic, gave a curt nod. Thanks for doing this, I said quietly when I sat down across from him. He shrugged, his lips pressed into a thin line. I'm trying. Dinner was tentative at first. Conversation was slow, punctuated by silences that felt heavy but necessary. Joshua didn't bring up the party. I didn't bring up the laptop or the long-held grudge. We were starting fresh, piece by piece. At one point, Joshua looked up, eyes a little brighter than I'd seen in months. I know I've hurt a lot of people, he said softly. And I know saying sorry isn't enough, I want to do better for all of you, especially for you. I swallowed, feeling the knot of anger and resentment slowly loosening. I want that too, I admitted. Not just for me, but for all of us, but you have to actually try. Josh, no more last-minute explosions, no more pretending everything's okay when it's not. He nodded solemnly. I know, and I'll try, I promise. For the first time in years, it felt like a door had opened to one that had been closed tight by hurt and grudges. It wouldn't be easy. There would be setbacks. There would be moments when old habits surfaced, but now there was also hope. By the end of dinner, we were laughing softly, sharing small stories from childhood, and even teasing each other lightly. The shadows of the graduation party still lingered, but they didn't dominate the room. Joshua and I had started to bridge the gap that had divided us for so long. Walking home later that night, I realized that family isn't perfect. It's messy, it's painful, it's filled with grudges and mistakes. But sometimes, with honesty, effort, and patience, it can also heal. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like maybe Joshua and I could finally move past the chaos, the addiction, and the old wounds and just be cousins again. It wasn't a fairy tale ending, but it was real. And sometimes real is enough.